G'day, I'm Mike, and welcome to Ask the Point, a show where I sit back, relax, and answer your questions about mathematics. Today's question is a classic. It comes from Rory, who asks, why can't I divide by zero? Well, Rory, that's because if you did, you would create a black hole which would consume the universe and sort of ruin everything. So don't do it. More seriously, although a black hole is kind of what you get when you divide a star's mass over a volume of zero. More seriously, that's a good question, and it's something I'm sure we've all thought about at one point or another. And probably the first thing that we tried was to go to a calculator, punch in 1 divided by 0, and see what happened. And what happened was the calculator gave us some kind of error message and sat there refusing to do it without explaining why. Machines, am I right? Okay, so we're kind of stuck there. Now, if you've learned about the reciprocal function, y equals 1 divided by x, the one that graphs the hyperbola, then you may have thought of an interesting answer. Because you see, if you look at the shape of the graph, what you can see happening is that as you replace x with smaller and smaller numbers, so as you're dividing 1 by smaller and smaller amounts, your answer gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And you may be tempted to say, well, 1 divided by 0 is infinity. But that's wrong, so don't do that either. So why is that wrong? Well, first, when we take a number and divide it by another number, what we're hoping to happen is we get one answer, and our answer is another number, not some abstract idea. Infinity, at least when it's first encountered, is an abstract idea. It's the idea of forever, or going on without end. So we don't want to divide something by 0 and get an abstract idea. Now, mathematicians have come up with ways in which infinity can be treated kind of sort of like a number by attaching it to the rest of the numbers and saying if you divide by 0 you get infinity, this new number. But we're not going there because that takes us out of the realm of the numbers we're used to, and all the rules we have for our numbers don't necessarily apply in this new system. You can look up projective extended real numbers if you'd like more details there. But sticking with the numbers we know and love, how do we divide by 0? Okay. You notice on the graph of 1 over x that it says nothing about what happens at x equals 0. What it does say, if you know about limits, is this, which is not that 1 divided by 0 gives you infinity, but it's that abstract idea of forever without end. It's saying, briefly, that you can make this 1 over x thing as big as you want with no limit on how big it can get by making that x small enough. So if you want 1 over x to be bigger than 1,000,000, you can do it. You just make x smaller than 1,000,000th. But again, this is talking about when x is a tiny positive number. It says nothing at all about when x is 0. We can't use limits, if you've learned about them, to divide by 0 until you get to calculus. Then we kind of sort of can, but that's for another time. Okay, so that's no good either. We need another way to look at this problem to see what happens when we divide by 0, or why we can't do it, if we can't do it. And it turns out the real reason you can't divide by 0 is a lot simpler than you might think. And here it is. If you multiply any number by 0, you get 0. I mean, that kind of makes sense. If I've got 5 boxes and each box has 0 cupcakes, then all up I have 0 cupcakes, which is kind of sad. And it doesn't matter how many boxes of no cupcakes I have. If they're all empty, then I've got no cupcakes. End of story. Anything times 0 gives 0. That seems pretty straightforward. But if you accept that, then you can't divide by 0. Let me explain why. So you've probably heard about the 4 fundamental operations of arithmetic, the 4 things you can do with numbers. You can add them, subtract them, multiply them, or divide them. When you get further on in your mathematical training, you realize that it's not really 4 fundamental operations, it's kind of only 2. You only really have addition and multiplication, because subtraction and division you get for free. They're just the opposites of addition and multiplication. Kind of like, if you've studied enough physics, how electricity and magnetism turn out to be just one kind of force called electromagnetism. Every subtraction problem you encounter is just a different kind of addition problem, and every division problem a different kind of multiplication. For instance, 2 plus 3 equals what? That's an addition problem. 2 plus 3 is 5. Okay, 5 minus 3 equals what? That's a subtraction problem. Now let's pretend that I've got no idea what subtraction means. This is the first time I've seen it. The way you'd probably explain it to me is you'd say, okay, well, in order to figure out 5 minus 3 equals what, I've got to find a number that when I add 3 to it gives me 5. Here's our subtraction problem. It's really an addition problem with the unknown number on the other side of the equation. 5 minus 3 is 2 because I have to add 2 to my starting number 3 to get 5. Sound good so far? So addition and subtraction, it's the same thing. Multiplication and division, similar story. A multiplication problem might look like 2 times 3 equals what? Well, 2 times 3 equals 6. 2 boxes, each with 3 cupcakes, 6 cupcakes. Hey. Okay, division problem. That might look like 6 divided by 3 equals what? And that's asking, really, what do I have to multiply 3 by in order to get 6? How many boxes of 3 cupcakes do I need? So I've got 6 cupcakes. And the answer to this is 2, because 2 times 3 gives me 6. So my division problem was really a multiplication problem with the unknown number on that side. Okay, so with that in mind, let's take another look at dividing by 0. Let's do 1 divided by 0. That means, what number, when I multiply by 0, gives me 1? And there's the problem. Because no matter what number you multiply by 0, you're not going to get 1, you're going to get 0. We agreed on that before, right? So that's why you can't divide by 0. Because there's no answer, because whatever answer you got would be the number you multiplied 0 by to get 1, which can't be done. And if you replace the 1 with 2 or 3 or whatever, you're still not going to be able to solve the problem. That's why you can't divide by 0. Except, there is one more thing we have to consider. What about 0 divided by 0? Now that's asking, 0 times what number gives me 0? And now the problem isn't that we don't have any numbers that do that, it's that every single number does that. Everything multiplied by 0 is going to give you 0. So our answer could be whatever you want. But it shouldn't be. We should say that because anything goes, there's no answer here either. Because if we let the answer be anything, then we could prove that 1 and 2 were the same number. Because you just say, well, 1 is equal to 0 divided by 0, and so is 2. So they're the same thing. Well, as soon as you do that, now every number is the same as every other number. So my 1 cup of coffee is the same as 10 cups of coffee, and 0 cups of coffee, and -5 cups of coffee, and everything collapses into this blob of nothingness. All mathematics is rendered pointless. And so sometimes the reason we don't divide by 0 is because we're trying to avoid creating a black hole-like catastrophe. If you've got mathematical questions, we've got mathematical answers, and we'd love to hear from you. So send us your questions either in the comments on this video or on our social media sites, which are linked over here, including our Facebook page, where you can meet and hang out with other awesome mathematically minded people. Don't forget to subscribe so you get these videos delivered fresh. If you find them useful, let us know with a like. And until next time, happy mathsing, and we'll catch you later on The Point.